Good morning, everyone. I want to welcome everybody. We are actually live from my backyard with Ping Pong for Good. So I want to welcome Trent and Maureen, and let me tell you a little bit about them. Okay, so I met Maureen and Trent as they were just starting this program. They approached me and said, "We want to run this by you and see what you think." And I played ping pong as a kid, and it was always a blast. It was what we did in the basement when it was raining or the weather was crummy. Growing up in the Midwest, we had frequent tornado watches in the spring, and we spent the whole time playing ping pong. So anyway, let me tell you a little bit about them, and then they're going to tell you about this amazing program that they have developed, and it's expanding exponentially, I think, at this point. So Maureen McComsey is a social impact strategist with over 2 decades of experience. Recognizing the incredible potential of ping pong as a catalyst for brain health and healthy aging, she launched Ping Pong for Good to raise awareness about its myriad benefits for people living with neurological conditions. With her experience in social innovation and an unwavering dedication to positive change, Maureen and her co-founder, Trent McLean, are leading a movement utilizing ping pong as a tool to optimize brain and body health. Trent is an expert in the apparel and retail industry, totally unrelated to ping pong, bringing a wealth of experience as a co-founder of Ping Pong for Good on multiple fronts. In 2011, he received a life-changing diagnosis of Parkinson's after experiencing symptoms for over 30 years. He attributes his rigorous and consistent exercise program, including ping pong, to effectively managing its symptoms. With his unique perspective and unwavering determination, Trent plays a vital role in shaping the vision of Ping Pong for Good, providing hope and inspiration for individuals affected by Parkinson's and other neurological conditions. And I just want to say they had a ping pong room at the World Parkinson's Congress, and every day they had a competition. He came out on top.
Well, actually, they wanted to start getting someone else up there, so I had to come in second.
Oh. We'll take out the violins, right? So I'm going to start by asking you a couple of questions. What inspired you to start this to begin with?
I think you have to look to my right for the answer to that one.
Well, this all began during the lockdown COVID period. And I was initially inspired by one of my dear friend's mother, who was 92 at the time. He had bought his parents a table when his dad had dementia 10 years prior. And they played consistently, and he really he had learned about the benefits of table tennis, which is really largely unknown to most people, but he found it out 10 years ago, and he really attributes giving his dad an extra 6 months to a year of better quality of life. And so during the lockdown, that was the only exercise he and his mother could do. And so they played consistently all the time. And during that period, they actually hit what we think is a world record for a 90-year-old of 1,567 consecutive hits for 13 minutes of play. And they caught it on camera. My friend Richard is part of the social impact space as well. And so we thought, my goodness, we can make people aware of this incredible activity that is so great for brain health by bringing attention to it. And coming from social impact, I saw an opportunity to bring attention to the importance of brain health and exercise, and in particularly Parkinson's, because when I started doing my deep dive, I realized that that's where most of the research had been, and that there were some other organizations that were using ping pong with Parkinson's specifically. And that's when I reached out to Trent, because we had met years ago, and I knew that he had been actively using exercise to manage his own Parkinson's. And so out of that, we put our heads together and decided that we would build this movement, which would start off as really, let's make more people aware about ping pong is great for their brain, and it can really help people with their symptoms. And let's be what I consider, we used to call the Movember, which is a movement, like using ping pong as a spark to make people pay attention to a really tough subject. That's what we started. But then we realized, well, there's a lot of talk about the benefits of table tennis and ping pong, But the reality of it, it's really not easy. There's no place to go play. There's not the mechanism of how to play. And so that's what we set out to solve, is how can we drop this activity to make it more accessible to more people? And then I'll hand it off to Trent to pick it up from there.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Well, I was gonna ask about your story. What brought you to all of this? You were diagnosed 7 years ago?
14.
14. Oh, that's right. You were a year after me. Okay.
No, I think it's always interesting sometimes to hear individual stories, because you can relate to them in some ways and understand in other ways kind of what you can do with it. And I was playing a lot of squash when I was in my mid-20s, and I would be, some days I just couldn't grip the racket, as tightly as I wanted to, or have the same kind of control. And it would just kind of come and go. It would just happen, a day at a time. And also I was a skier and a hiker. So for any of you who are skiers, you initiate that turn with your big toe. And I couldn't always control that right big toe. So those days my ski would be flopping around like this. And same thing on a hike, I kind of misstep. And so I'd get periodically just inquire with my internist, if they thought anything was going on, but because it was coming and going and it wasn't, sort of on a more permanent basis, they said, don't worry about it. Just, it'll probably work itself out. It could be inflammation of nerve endings, who knows? Anyway, this pattern went on for 30 years and it got increasingly present, the duration of the, of the strength or control here. And it was still mostly in those two symptoms. And I finally started to go to neurologists, and, their first test was usually MS. And, I was dreading that in terms of waiting for the response to that, and probably saw 5 neurologists over 10 or 12 years. And finally, within what was on my 3rd neurologist, walked in and did the same test. We're doing walking down the aisle, same test, same basic test. And he said, take this medication. And if your symptoms improve in the next few days, you have Parkinson's. He didn't say, I'll tell you what you might have, or it didn't, he just said, you have Parkinson's. If, I'm 95% sure of that. So it was the good news, and the good news was that 2 days later, my symptoms did get better. And the good news is I knew what it was finally after decades. And the other good news is out of the trifecta, if I was going to go for ALS, MS, and Parkinson's, I took the one that I would have chosen of the 3. And the other good news is after that is I've been living with it essentially for 3 decades. And being a very active, in sports, I was always very injury prone. So I was always playing everything, but getting hurt and bouncing back. And that just became the pattern. And the symptoms I had to deal with really just I'd incorporated in part of my lifestyle. So that wasn't as tough a transition. However, I wasn't about to go public with it because I was very nervous that it would affect me professionally. So I went for 11 or 12 some years, just keeping it quiet, and my symptoms were kept in check to the point where most people wouldn't know I had it unless I told them, or if they're looking for it, because I'd be like this. And I absolutely attribute my intense lifestyle in sports to keeping my symptoms at bay. And ping pong now, and the call from Maureen was just happened to happen at a time in my life where I could in fact risk going public with it. And now I had a reason to do it. And now as I wake up, this is the reason I'm doing it. This is the reason I wake up for in the morning, that I can hopefully inspire others with PD that are less fortunate than I am, to just show that intense exercise with a program of progressive weight training, cardio, and something like ping pong. We're not saying it only has to be ping pong, but it's one of the best choices for it. Will be your best challenger to, as I call it, being a PD buster. So that's what kind of brought us together, and the timing couldn't have been better. And now we've kind of launched on this, and I'll let Maureen just touch on sort of what our mission and vision is, just so you kind of know where we're heading and why, and how you've been able to fit into part of the story, and some of the people here today have been part of the beginning of the story and helped us get the program to where it is today, which was proving that it actually works. Maureen?
Sure. Thanks, Trent. Our vision really is this widespread adoption of ping pong as a fitness, therapeutic, and community activity. Now, in other countries like in Europe and in Asia, ping pong is much more common. But in the US, there's I think 220 or so clubs in the US. And when you go to those clubs, they're primarily focused on more competitive nature. They're not particularly warm. Well, it's challenging to go there as a novice player. So imagine if your neurologist tells you, you really should be exercising. You need to exercise, and hey, ping pong is really great. What do you do? And this is the problem. This is what we're solving for. So over the last 18 months, we've built out a pilot program, and we've done it in 6 different locations at different types of venues, from a senior center in Peoria, Illinois, to a YMCA in Santa Monica, to the world-class facility in San Francisco. And we tried it in all these, and then just a multi-use space, an empty giant room in Sepulveda, which we kind of miss, I have to say. And we tried it in these different locations, and we realized it's possible to literally set up this program in these types of venues all around the country. And that is what we're setting out to do. And so what we realized we also need to do is you have to train the trainers on how to teach table tennis in a non-competitive way, in a cooperative and therapeutic way, with the modifications needed when you're working with the special population that we serve. Did I cover?
Oh, that was great on the programming. And then you say, well, why ping pong? Like, out of all the choices you have, many of you have been in the sort of the PD community for a while, have been familiar with dance and spinning and box, have sort of been the go-to 3. One of our objectives is to have every neurologist and occupational therapist, physical therapist, so when they mention those 3, to have ping pong roll off their tongue as one of those 4. We're not here to say, don't box, don't spin, play ping pong. Instead, we're saying maybe dance isn't for your boxes, or maybe you want something else for variety or to complement it. And why ping pong? Because ping pong is easy to pick up. Like, people come to us and say, I have no hand-eye coordination. I've never played a racket sport. And after one session, they're hitting 20-shot rallies. And after one session, someone walks in, and I'm not saying this happens every time, but someone's walking in with their hand doing one of these, and 20 minutes into the session, I won't mention his name, hey, Simon, look at your hand. And 20 minutes in, he's going. And what ends up happening is the positive impacts of that carry forward after the session. It's intergenerational. It creates a sense of community. It's inexpensive to play. We'll show you how you can play at home or in your backyard or with a headset on VR. So it's anyone can play anywhere at any budget, remotely. Can't get into a table, you can play on a smaller table. So and the other thing is, we never planned or expected this, but after the session, people either want to keep playing, or they just want to hang out and talk to each other, or they've formed new friends. It's created a community. And not only has it created a community, it's become if any of you have been to a support group, it's not always, the best, positive, uplifting experience. But this has become a support group informally, and it's a positive version of that. And because in the PD world, it's 11% of people have access to a movement disorder specialist. So what are the other 89% of the people doing? Who are they relying on? The rest of the community. So when you come in here, you have an opportunity for sharing. On the last, I think, 3 sessions, I shared 3 things which I thought most people knew about, and virtually no one in the room had heard about. So it's an opportunity to do that as well. So it's a magic game, and in North America, as Maureen said, it's very underdeveloped. There wasn't access. So first thing we wanted to do is secret, because as a neuromotor activity, it does body and brain simultaneously. It activates more parts of the brain than virtually any other exercise. Your brain decreases in size 0.5% after age 35 annually, and in function. Imagine if someone told you by playing ping pong, your brain could increase in size and be better. When you watch our participants, some of whom are here today, it's, they don't see that incremental improvement from session to session. But as Maureen and I have watched them, these people have gone up 2 and 3 levels, which is just incidental to what we're doing. And you say, well, what are you doing? We're not just telling people to play. As most of you know, you should just be moving. Any movement is good. Playing ping pong is good. Playing ping pong in a particular way is even better. I'll give you an example. If any of you have as I do, sort of that shortened arm swing on the affected side, that range of movement, and I may think I'm moving at 50%, I'm at about 25%. There's closed and open drills in ping pong without getting too technical, but closed drills are repetitive motion. So you're doing the backhand, oh geez. And with Parkinson's too, you have to be consistent, you have to be repetitive, and you have to reinforce. So by continually doing closed drills, repetitive motion, you can re-automate. And even in some of our warm-up exercises where you do kind of marching in place, or you're doing opposite arm, opposite leg, all of those things can help to re-automate something that's now been abbreviated. And you go, by playing ping pong, I can get my right arm swing back. And the answer is absolutely. So it can be very specific to what's going on, because as you know, it's a very individual condition. So we can go in a class and look at someone's individual situation and say, what do you need to work on? What affects you the most? And worst case is, at the end of the session, you walk out in a better mood. That's a mood lifter. That's the guaranteed minimum contribution you're going to get. Hopefully you'll get a few other things, but no one walks out without a mood elevation. And I don't know what it is about the game, but people are always smiling. Like if someone else hits a shot and it nicks on your side and you lose the point, both people are still smiling. I can't explain it, but it's a pretty valuable thing to have as an activity, with that being the case. So anyway, we could go on in terms of watching the observations, but the one thing you notice the most is when you see people coming in, is when their lasers are on stun and they're focused. When you start playing the game, focus, attention, peripheral vision, all that stuff's going on, but the eyeballs are, and you watch this one. It's like when you have someone going for that killer shot. No matter what you were doing when you come into that room, once you shift gears and you're starting to play, everything else, whatever your condition is, whatever your symptoms are, you're not thinking about them. You suddenly you're totally engaged, and somehow something changes, and it changes physically and it changes mentally. And when you watch the eyes, and one of our newer members came in, and he'd been off an accident. He was just off a walker. And I was frankly a little concerned he might be a fall risk. And after his first session, he had a relative with him helping him behind, sort of backed off. Second session, he had no one behind him. Third session, he's going for kill shots, and his eyes were just attached to that ball. And in 3 sessions, he went from being in a walker virtually to being balanced and going for kill shots.
I know some of these people that come in and you look at them and go, there's no way. And then they hit these amazing shot after shot after shot. And it's like, wow,
Yeah.
The transformation really is amazing. And it's a lot of fun. But I think what you said before about it becomes a support group. And any exercise group that you're part of, because when you start interacting with the other members of that group, it becomes a support group. And the nice thing about coming together with people with Parkinson's is we understand each other. We all know we talk the same language. And it's really important, and we don't have to have somebody else talk for us. We are talking for ourselves in this group. And that's a really important thing that we all get out of it, I think.
And it brings up another good point, is when you're across the table in a game, it's usually competitive at some point, but what we do, we start off to get people in what we call the flow state is, and it becomes almost musical when you need to hit, you start off a little bit easier, higher over the net until both people are in a rhythm. And because you're usually at a different level than the person on the other side of the net. And once you start hitting the mirror image of what's coming to you, you can hear it. And then there's a, and it's very consistent and rhythmic, but you get it to the sound and the pace. And then once you do that, then the competition is with, you're doing it with each other. You're not doing it to beat the person on the other side. You have to mirror what they're doing regardless of what their level is. And that, then to hear two people getting into, and I said, and then once you establish that flow state, then you can start to pick it up and take it from there. But that's where you start, and you suddenly have this kind of, connection between two people to start that off. And then if you, at the end of it, we have gameplay, which is competitive, but there too, it's probably a friendly, more of a friendly
Yeah,
competition.
it really is. There's no animosity in this game. But what happens, you get into this rhythm and you start counting, back and forth, 1, 2, 3, 4. And instead of trying to want to kill the ball and, put it away, you want to see how many you can get. So it keeps going and going and going. So the first time might be 10, and then it's 20, and then it's 40, or maybe 50 times you hit it. And believe it, it does happen. And nobody wants to end it. You don't want to put a shot away if you're in a good rhythm, because it's fun to get that rhythm going.
So we're now at a point where, as Maureen said, we established for 2 years we wanted to spend on working on our pilots, getting the program down, getting the feedback from the participants. We have volunteers now that I don't think we've lost a volunteer since we've started. And we have some great volunteers that are better players that feed the ball, to people that are just getting into the game. And now that we've got a certification program, once we train a coach, they have 3 pieces to it. They learn about brain health and what playing ping pong does for the brain and the body. And they also have a Parkinson's piece, which is about the adaptations and the things we have to do particular for Parkinson's. So imagine, just as an example, any drill or anything we're doing where people are going backwards, obviously, we don't want to do, but or if you can't grip the racket in the formal way, with the finger here and the thumb over here, we'll just work it to whatever works for your body, whatever you're able to do, whatever's safe for you. And the safety portion of it is absolutely key. And most of the people that we have as participants get injured outside of ping pong, and that's why they're not at ping pong. But when we're here, formally in the game, you can't put your hand on the table. We encourage people to put their hand on the table. There's one individual who now he's hitting regular shots because he's there and he's got his hand on the table. So you need to take a break if you need to rest. It's all attuned, to the individual for safety, engagement, and maximum development of the brain and the body. So it's the other thing that happens if you've got people that they haven't been physically active, they can start with ping pong, and what it does is it enables them to get into exercise in a way that they can then advance to other things that are perhaps a little more strenuous, as a result of that. So now we're looking at where else we can go in the country. As Maureen said, there's only 230 odd competitive clubs, which they don't usually welcome, women, seniors, kids. There's a few that do, but it's rare. It's very, very competitively oriented. So there's other channels of distribution that we're looking at, like retirement homes, like YMCAs, like senior centers. And right now, some of them have tables in retirement homes that are just sitting there and never being used. So it's right now is we needed to create the awareness of the game and the benefits of it, that was because we call it the best kept secret. And once we got people excited about doing it, we needed to know how to be able to train people so they could execute the course. So we finished the training, the certification program that we talked about. And now we can go to market because we've been able to, we want to have the accessibility. We want to open up the secret so it's no longer a secret, drive the demand to that. And there's a couple of ways of doing that. We hope to have things like, documentary done, about the program if we can. We want to have more press so that we can get the awareness out there. And for you to spread the word to other people in our community to be playing. But every neurologist, occupational therapist, physical therapist, and everyone with Parkinson's or any neurodegenerative disease should know about this. And that's what Maureen and I are trying to figure out now in terms of the sooner the better, because the results are, when we're looking at quality of life versus cure. How many cures have any of you known about in your lifetime? Not too many. The cure should happen, and that would be great if it does, but what's gonna happen next week that's gonna make your quality of life better? This is one of the things that will make your life better next week while we're waiting for the cure. And the investment required to do this is a rounding error of what it takes to find a cure, a rounding error. So all we have to do is be able to convince major people like, pharma, that this is a good thing to do, because if someone in your family gets diagnosed like we did, and you're going, okay, now what I'm going to do? Oh, I'm not going to contribute to the cure. That's great. But what are you going to do for me this week? And every week we have people going out and feeling better about their condition because they have some more control of it. And that's pretty powerful.
So we're continuing to, look to expand the program. So what we're doing, we love to be able to provide this program for free to as many people as we can, and with resources, and as Trent talked about, hopefully we can get a pharmaceutical or a corporate sponsor, or through someone who shares our vision and bringing this programming to to all the places that it can go. We know the demand is there. We get inquiries every week saying that they want to start a program in the community, and so we've built the container, and now we're ready to bring it to the world. So
and the other piece too that we'll add, if we get a documentary, if we get more press, is if we get a research study done that does similar to what boxing, spinning, and dance have had, and their studies haven't been really that strong, but they've been good enough for people to then go, these three things will help my condition. For us to be able to have a research study done on ping pong and its benefits, if you talk to most neurologists or movement disorder people, they will tell you what this will do and the benefit. They know intuitively, but we need to have the study for the credibility and to make it solid. So there's two steps to that study. One's a feasibility study, which some of you may know is sort of the smaller version, the precursor to it, where you just show that people will show up and for the activity over a period of time, 12 weeks. So we're working on getting that in place, and then hopefully that will attract the bigger sponsor for the full-blown study. And we want to be the ones that drive that research that gives credibility to this. But I could talk to the people here that take our classes, and they can tell me the difference that it makes. I don't need a neurologist to tell me, but we can right now tell you scientifically, what it does to the brain, why it does it, and what the benefits are to the brain and the body. So, sure.
Okay, all I can say is when we were in Barcelona, the most popular activity was ping pong, by far. I think they had offered it in Kyoto 4 years prior, and it was a different story. This was so much fun. People were lined up to get to play ping pong, and they couldn't wait to go back and do it again. In fact, I see a couple of our women on today from Northern California who went home. They were with us in Barcelona, and they went home and started a ping pong program. And I think they've affiliated with you, correct?
Yeah, we're in conversation with them.
Yeah, so it's expanding, and it's just a lot of fun. And you can be the light the life of the party, we were at a bat mitzvah and they had a ping pong table there. There's ping pong tables at every event now. It's not just, it's just exploded everywhere. And these teenagers are coming, these 13-year-olds are coming up and, oh, let's play, and they thought they're gonna beat this old lady. And I fooled them. So it was a lot of fun.
Sharon, should we show people how they can do this at home?
Yes,
Or
absolutely. Let's
It's a
show,
good time.
yeah, this is a great time to show people how they can do it at home. So we're gonna move.
So, yeah, just tell me. So you think about the power of this game. You start with just the ball and you go, what could this possibly be doing for me? And you just start this off, and this is for our participants to do at home, but for people that are remote, that can't get in, don't have access to a table. I'm doing this right now with my, I happen to be a little bit ambidextrous, but this is my affected side. So we ask people to do this, and right away you've got focus, you have peripheral vision, you have hand-eye coordination, you have fine motor skills, and all you're doing so far is tossing a ball. And all that's already happening. The brain's starting to engage, the blood's starting to flow. And then what we try to do is, this is my affected side. We say, okay, you can probably already see the difference. So now what we try to do is we say, my goal and your goal is to be able to do the same thing and in symmetry, challenge your affected side to do what the unaffected side is doing. And so that I can start to do this consistently. It's about consistency and repetition. And if I can't catch it right away, I'll grab it. And then by doing this, I'll try to get the two hands to be to the point where you really can't tell the difference. And as I get a little more confident, I get a little bit higher. So that's how you can start it off at home, and that's a good warm-up. And just by doing that, I couldn't think about you anymore, and I couldn't think that there was a screen over there. I had to focus on it. And then you can start with the table. And there's, doing these drills are bounded only by your own imagination. And we have a number of them on our website. So you can go home and do the program off the table. And then you can start to do it with your racket. And again, you can do these. I just switched to left hand, but I was playing right-handed about 4 months ago. And then when you get a little better, you can kind of walk around and walk the dog and find a friend. And, we pass the ball off to someone else's, racket. But, the white ball sometimes it depends on the background. So if my friend Sharon's walking around, we just pass it off to her. So drop it to me. So, and we probably have 20 or 25 of these we do just to get you warmed up. And all of this prepares you also to play the game or just work on your coordination drills. Now, the other thing that's available, so we have a table of this size, so I don't, we'll do a little demo on playing this later. The other thing you can do is you can do virtual reality, which I know Barry's on the call today. And virtual reality, you have to make sure that your balance is good, of course, to do this. Some people, whether they have Parkinson's or not, can get disoriented. You can do it sitting down. But
You also have to remember that there isn't a real table there to lean on, because I tried to lean on the table. It wasn't good.
And on virtual reality, there's 40 odd thousand people around the world that are on this particular game. So you can talk to someone while you're playing them. So you can catch up. So I'll call people when I'm talking to Ryan, who's our brain guy. We'll just do sort of a quasi meeting while we're playing ping pong at the same time. So there's no reason that no matter where you are, there isn't some part of this game you can go. As I said, we've got the full off the table drills on the website that you can follow. And by the time if you do this every day, again, you can have all of that happening in terms of focus, peripheral vision, brain activation, improved neuron flow, balance, mobility, fine motor skills. And when you really get good, you might want to bounce it off the edge. So that's, I think, what we have for today. We could do a little demo. Kent and I could probably play on the small table and just show you.
Okay, do you have any questions?
Now's a good, now's a
Now's a
good
great
time for
time.
questions.
Anybody here have questions? Or otherwise, we're gonna go to the online group. Yeah,
What were the three things that you shared that people didn't know about? You mentioned that early on when you were talking,
three things you shared with the group in the last few weeks. Something
Oh.
about the breather.
Yeah, there's a, it looks like an inhaler, but it's a breath. You blow into this tube. It's a 150. You get it over the counter. So if you have swallowing or voice projection problems, you breathe into this, you blow into it, and you can adjust how difficult it is. It's like you do 3 sets of that a day, 3 times 5. And you can adjust, I'm at the highest now. So for me, both swallowing and voice projection were issues. So, I don't do it every day, but I do it probably a couple times a week. And out of our group, there was only, I think, one person that even knew about it.
I have one. Speech pathologist gave me one.
Yeah.
What were the other 2 things?
And the other one is, there's one that's like a tongue depressor. You put under your tongue, middle of your tongue, and the front of your tongue. And you have to hold it down, give your tongue exercise. And it does the same thing. It works the muscles of the tongue and the throat for the same reasons, for swallowing and voice projection. The other thing is, if you happen to be choking, I had a piece of steak stuck in my throat when I was up in Whistler, BC, after a day, and it was in there for an hour and a half. I could still speak, but it was. So I went into the emergency, and she said, go down to the corner store and get a regular Coke and start gargling with it. And she just sent me away. She didn't want to, I'm not admitting you. And I went down and did that. Within 5 minutes, the blocked piece of meat worked its way out of my throat.
Regular Coke.
Regular Coke, so you should be keeping a regular Coca-Cola in your refrigerator for that purpose. So I just thought, this was just one a week. I was just coming up with these. So it's, again, just an example of how we kind of take care of each other, but I just assumed everyone knew about all 3. And I won't make that assumption again. So anyways, it's been very powerful, and it's, Maureen and I continue to learn as we go, and it's because of our participants and the feedback we get. And it's exciting that we're learning as we go, and we're getting better, and it's becoming more beneficial. So
thank
we
you.
could go on forever, but it's good stuff.
Okay. All right, any questions from people online? Just go ahead and unmute yourself and start speaking. Nobody? Okay,
Must have covered it all.
must have covered it all. Okay, let's do some demos of people playing then. Any volunteers? Very small.
Remember that musical part I talked about? Let's just see if Juan and I can make it musical.
Oh, that's me.
Yep. You guys are getting boring.
Next.
All right, I just want to say that this net is portable. You can put this on your dining room table, you can put it on a card table, you can put it on any table you have. It doesn't have to be a ping pong table.
Yeah, and for $25, basically you get the net for two,
And then.
two rackets and some ball.
Yeah.
So you're in business with any flat surface. You can put this net on just any flat surface. You can put it on this one.
Yeah, well, that one's got slats, so the
Yeah.
ball hits funny, doesn't respond well. But, yeah, it needs to be a flat surface, but it works.
Who's next?
Carol, come on.
Expands.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, you can put it on this table here.
Backhand is working.
You can do whatever you want.
Oh. I think we should mention that these three have actually, including Ken, all competed in the US Open championships this past year.
And in their first year going to the US Open.
In the Parkinson's division.
it's a lot of fun. Humiliating, but a lot of fun. When you watch these 7 or 8-year-old kids, boys usually, just hitting these things, these bullets, I mean, it was amazing. But.
When you have to try to make it easier for your partner on this, it's actually good for your game too. Now you can start to hear that sound again. When you go on in the head and throw on the head. Great, Carol.
They used to have us do all kinds of drills, like you'd have to go 1, 5, count different numbers. And all these neuro things that you have to do cognitive exercises along with hitting the ball.
Yeah, you think it's simple, but when you just have people keep score when they're serving in the middle of a game,
We can't remember.
no, it's a
I
cognitive
can't
drill.
remember.
Who's next?
Anybody
Joe.
else?
Come
Joe,
on,
come
Joe.
on, you were great on Friday.
Start.
Okay.
Yeah.
Raise your hand.
I have funny finger that's hard.
No.
Oh, she's got an excuse. Everybody has an.
Come on, Joe, we got it.
Well, somebody should show them how it's done.
Absolutely.
No, Joe, no winners.
We have, oh, you have a book.
Great.
My point.
She got that. I was playing with Joe on Friday and she won every point. She made sure she told me she won every point.
Very.
You tell them it's your.
They're both playing left-handed.
Yeah.
You see, Joan always goes for one.
There you go.
Your point.
One more, Joan.
Go.
One more.
There we go.
Right.
Okay,
Okay, anyone else?
I think we're gonna go ahead and wrap this up. Thank you, everybody, for joining us and participating today. And let's see if we can show our.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Sharon, for having us. Always a pleasure to have you.
And
With you.
I just want to bring up our next. On June 9th, we're going to have Aaron from RX Ballroom Dancing. This is your chance to dance with the stars. Anybody want to be on Dancing with the Stars? Ballroom Dancing. We're gonna have, Erin come and talk to us again. She joined us a few years ago, but we've had so many more people join since then. And I don't want you to miss out the experience, but, she's gonna lead us in some ballroom dancing, which is gonna be a lot of fun. And you can wear your costumes, whatever you want to wear, your fancy ballroom dancing dresses. We're gonna be meeting, I think, June 9th. I'm working on something for July and for August. We're meeting once a month during the summer and seeing how it's going because I've got some travel stuff going on. But, and I think that's about it. If we have no more questions, we're going to end for today. And for those who are here in my backyard, you're welcome to play ping pong for as long as you want. And with that, we'll see you in a few weeks. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.